Hello everyone and welcome to this video. We'll just be revising a little on functions. So we know that function looks at the relationship between an independent and an dependent variable. And in this case, you can look at it as your y and the x coordinates, looking at it from the graph perspective. As I usually tend to look at functions as well, it is just an advanced form of substitution. So if you understood substitution from the algebra component of your syllabus, then functions should be a breeze in the park for you. So today we'll be looking at the June 2017 question 4, which focused on functions. So it says the function f is defined as f of x is equal to 1/3 x minus 2. And part 1 wants us to find the value of f of 3 plus f of negative 3. So what we're going to do is to work f of 3 separately, then f of negative 3, and we're going to add the answer from both, which will eventually give us our full mark for this question. So wherever we see f of 3, what this is telling us is that in the function f of x, wherever we see x, you're going to replace x with the number 3. So that is what we're going to do here. So we have 1/3 x. So we see x, wherever we see x, we're going to replace it with the number 3. So we have 1/3 3 minus 2. And now we can go ahead and solve. So we can cancel our 3 here. 3 into itself goes 1 time, 3 into 3 goes 1 time. So what we have remaining is 1 multiplied by 1. That will leave us with 1, so 1 minus 2. And therefore, f of 3 is equal to 1 minus 2 will leave us with negative 1. So 1 minus 2 will leave us with negative 1. Now we can work f of negative 3. So again, we're in the function that we see x, we will replace it with negative 3. So we have 1/3 negative 3 minus 2. And therefore, f of negative 3 is equal to, so we have 3 into itself 1 time, 3 into negative 3. That will leave us with negative 1. So negative 1 multiplied by 1 will leave us with negative 1 minus 2. And therefore, f of negative 3 is equal to negative 3. And now we can find what the question really asks us for, which is f of 3. So f of 3 plus f of negative 3. So f of 3, we got that to be negative 1 plus f of negative 3, we got that to be negative 3. So this will eventually work out to be negative 1 minus 3, which will give us negative 4 as our answer. So therefore, f of 3 plus f of negative 3 will give us an answer of negative 4. They say easy, very easy, just an advanced form of substitution. Now, part 2 says, calculate the value of x for which f of x is equal to 5. So as we know in functions, f of x is the same as y. But from our function, we know that f of x is equal to 1/3 x minus 2. So what they're asking us to do here is to find the value of x. And the question before part 1, they gave us our x values, and we found f of x, which is the same as y. But in this question, they gave us the f of x value, and we are now required to solve for x. So again, substitution. So wherever we see f of x, we're going to replace it with 5. So what we'll have is 5 is equal to 1/3 x minus 2. And we're now basically going to make x the subject of the formula, or basically solve for x. So we have minus 2, and that is the first component that we're going to remove. It is subtracting here, so we're going to add 2 to both sides of the equation. Or you can say, if the 2 is negative here, when we carry it across the equal sign, the operation now changes and it is doing the opposite. So it will be adding, so it will be 5 plus 2 is equal to 1/3 x, and 5 plus 2 is 7. So therefore, 7 is equal to 1/3 x. And now we can go ahead and solve for x. So the 1/3, it is multiplying here. So when it comes across, it will be dividing. So what we'll have is 7 divided by 1/3, which is equal to x. And as we know from section 1 of our syllabus, we never divide fractions. So what we do, we write back the first number in this case, which is the same fraction as 7/1. We change our division sign to a multiplication and then flip the fraction that follows. So what we have is 3/1, which is the same as 21/1. Sorry, so that should be 21/1, which is the same as 21 is equal to x. So therefore, when f of x is equal to 5, or x value is 21. And should you work this from the other way around, where you know substitute x in the function for 21, you will see that you get back your f of x to be 5 as that which is given here. So now we can move on to part 3, and they want us to determine the inverse function, so f inverse of x. So original function f of x is equal to 1/3 x minus 2. And as I stated earlier, that f of x is the same as y. So what we'll have here is y is equal to 1/3 x minus 2, and we're going to make x the subject of the formula, and then we can find the inverse. So first we're going to move the 2, again using the simpler method. The 2 is subtracting here, so when it goes across the equal sign, it will be adding. So what we'll have is y plus 2 is equal to 1/3 x. And then the 1/3 is being multiplied by the x here. So when it comes across, it will be divided. So what we'll have here is y plus 2 being divided by 1/3. So similar process up top, which is equal to x. And as we know, we can never divide fractions. So what we'll have here is y plus 2. And this is just giving it in a step-by-step approach, because you could have just said y plus 2 being multiplied by 3/1, but just to ensure that you understand what is going on. So what we'll have here is y plus 2 being multiplied by 3/1 is equal to x. And now expanding this. So we'll have 3 being multiplied by y to give us 3y, plus 3 being multiplied by 2 to give us 6 is equal to x. And by the way, if you realize, we can factorize what is happening here. So 3 is common to both terms. So we can say 3, and 3 into 3y will leave us with y, plus 3 into 6 will leave us with 2 is equal to x. And this now is where the interesting part is. So we're now going to flip, or wherever you see x, you will replace it with y, and wherever you see y, you replace it with x. So you're doing a transfer, and this is where the whole inverse aspect comes in, which will give us our final answer. So we'll have 3, wherever we see y, we replace it with x, plus 2 is equal to y. And this is the fun part, the inverse. So f inverse of x. So it is 3x plus 2 is equal to f inverse of x, and this is our answer. So basically what you're doing, you're first making x the subject of the formula, and once you do that, you just do a switch, make x. Wherever you see x, you write y. Wherever you see y, you write x, and that is your answer for the inverse of any function which is given. So thank you for joining us, and we hope that you get there.